All right, from the Studio Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Derek Shulman accepted the invitation to our show. Derek, welcome back to my humble podcast, man.
Great to see you, Claudio, again. Nice to see
No
you.
problem. Thank you. You're feel free to elaborate on the question. Your dad was an incredible musician, and all of you inherited his kinetic makeup because not just with your brothers, but I remember reading the book. We are talking about this great book, very easy to read, like $20 or so. You can read a couple afternoon, like Mark everywhere to in order to get questions for that. So, and your sister also was very important as well. Another great musician.
Yeah, we were very, yeah, it was, we were very, I was very lucky to have my father's DNA. We were all were because music was always around the house. That my father was a professional jazz musician, a trumpeter, but he also loved classical music. He played trumpet, but he also could play within maybe any instrument. He could play any instrument, and within 5 or 10 minutes, he's able to pick it up and master it within 10 minutes. And I think we were all very lucky to inherit his DNA, and my brothers and my sister. We all loved music, and we all played music. And thankfully, it's something that's been with me all of my life. And I reflect back on it when I played music and now I was in the business. It was music was everything to me, and still is.
I guess. You have any kids? Any of them are into music or
Yeah, two kids? Yeah, my kids, and they're both in the visual arts. Actually, more they do video, but actually they're both fantastic musicians. But they prefer to do visual arts and video and film. But they both they can pick up. They're the same. They're the same thing as my dad. They can pick up an instrument. Both my kids, and they're able to pick up drums, guitar, sax, and play it within 5 or 10 minutes. It's amazing that we have this, thankfully, a great genetic makeup in our DNA here.
Well, good for you, and you need to pass it along. That's the idea, right? So for your kids and their kids, it's everybody knows that it's very difficult to get out of poverty in general, but you guys did it with hard work and dedication. I mean, there was no magic, you work harder than anybody else, and you have the guts, the will, and the motivation to think you go from point A to point B, and it's no secret, right? You're the perfect example, coming from a humble means family, and look at where you are now, man. So
well, it was music was my savior, if you like. I was born in a poverty. Yes, it was a place called the Gorbals in Glasgow, and that was a tenement building where we didn't have any toilet facilities. It was eight families and one outside toilet. I don't remember that, but because I was a little baby when we moved down to the south of England. But my brother and sister, the elder brother and sister, they had that during the war and after the war. And my father moved down to the south coast of England after the war. And but again, we were poor, but for sure. And that was not pleasant. Honestly, not particularly pleasant. I don't have the good memories of being poor because I went to a school which was I got a scholarship to a very high-end school, a grammar school where all boys, and they were pretty wealthy, the kids. And I was the poor kid, the poor Jewish kid that was out of place with everyone, except that I loved music, and music was my outlet for that in my school.
Your ticket to heaven, if you will. That's what the only. At the same time, it's very important to bring into consideration that your parents, although they didn't have means, right? Your dad, your mom, and family member, it was very important for you to get a good education. So schooling was important, right? You couldn't have bad grades, and you didn't study. Do music, no problem. Do music in the evening, right? You need to have good grades, be prepared. Your clothes clean in the morning,
Absolutely.
So all the other rich kids couldn't make fun of you, and but you guys did it. I mean, If you have no chosen music, I'm quite sure you have become an academic, like a doctor or an engineer, or right. That would
Yeah, well, that was expected at the school. I mean, the school I
yeah
went to, it was streaming in those days, and the school I went to, generally the boys, it was all boys, and they were streamed to be the next elite high. In England at that point, they were
no
all high class, either upper
mm,
class or lower class. There's no middle class, so they were streamed to be professors or scientists or politicians or whatever. And you probably read in the book when the schoolmaster, the job master came around when I was about 13 or 14,
yeah
and when he came to my class, and they said, where are you going to take your skills? And my friends around me, what they'd say, I'm going to be a scientist, I'm going to be a politician, I'm going to be a doctor. And I said at 14, I'm going to be a rock star. And
wow. Everybody laugh at you, of course.
oh,
Right?
everyone laughed at me. Everyone said, and the schoolmaster said, "Don't be silly, Shulman. You're being silly. There's no chance. You get one in a million, and 3 years later, I was on top TV, and I was leaving school, and I signed my autograph to the same teacher.
That told you that. Wow, it's an amazing story. And you were at the top of the pops like a year after that.
So yeah,
My God.
and yeah.
Wow.
So
My God, man. Unbelievable, man.
it's been an interesting long period of time since then, but yeah, it was hard. It was hard to get out, but you know what? It was the only way for us, for my
Yeah.
brother, to live. We love to be a musician. That was what we had to do.
Yeah. In many ways here in the United States, they call it, if you don't have a plan B, you need to succeed, So you cannot go lower, right? The only way is up, so but
Yeah,
it takes tenacity, motivation, and desire and will. People, unfortunately, the younger generation, a lot of people in general. I'm an immigrant, like you were, when you came here, but a lot of people have ideas. Everybody want to have ideas, but they are not willing to do the work. That's the big difference. Everybody want to be rich and own a house, get married, go to school, but hey, you need to, pay your dues, so to speak, right?
well, that's actually good. You got made a good point, Claudio. There's a lot of entitlement now
Yeah,
from
no,
when as you said, as you pointed out, yeah, we worked and I worked really, really hard,
no,
24/7, to first of all to start my first group, but even before when I
yeah,
was in school, I did little jobs to pay for my first amplifier, to pay for, I worked and I put my blinkers on and said, I'm going to work hard and, and do my best. And yeah, it doesn't come to you. You got to go to it. And so the people, I hate to say this, but there is a younger generation that expects to be, to expect to be famous and rich and everything else. I didn't expect to be rich and famous. What I wanted to be is to make a good living or make a living as a musician. That's it. Not rich or not, whatever it is, but to work really hard to be a good musician and have good people around me and to enjoy life, and to be a good person.
yeah, which you have actually. So, plus you mentioned in the books that a lot of kids, unfortunately, in the music business, I don't know if it's not a profession, the music business, a lot of bands, I don't know back in the day, but now they sign any document without a lawyer looking into that. They become a little bit famous, and there's a lot of drugs and ladies or bad people that want to take your money or drinking a lot. And you guys were very straight, so
Yeah.
it's another yeah, because you were not drinking or doing stupid stuff. No, you were working hard. Okay, we are finished with the tour. Okay, let's go starting tomorrow. Take a day off. Let's go to the studio working the next album and so forth. So you guys were on a machine, man. Oh, you got
Yeah, we were workaholics to a certain degree,
yeah,
across the board. But I, to be honest with you, my father, yeah, again, was a good example in some ways, but not a good example in other ways because I mean, he died as you see in the book,
Yeah,
age 50. In both in my arms and my brother Phil's arms. Uh, but obviously he was a real jazz musician. He smoked about 3 pack, 40, 60 cigarettes a day. And of course, as a musician in those days, you drink. And after the show, and funny enough, after the show, after his gigs, he would come back home and he'd bring musicians home and play for just to enjoy it till 3 in the morning and everything. But that habit of drinking and that the lifestyle, when he died, we all said, no drinking, no drugs, no smoke. And
yeah,
my brothers and sister, we all were afraid of getting past the age of 50. It really
yeah.
it traumatizes that much.
Yeah, I got it. I got it now. And when you mentioned in the book also that when a couple of nights, I don't remember exactly how old you were, but your dad will bring some of his friends and they will get home in the living room, I imagine, and you hear the music and you want to come down and your mom say, no, you can school now, man. No, mom, I want to listen a little bit before I go to bed. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
1 or 2 in the morning, I come down and, as I said, he'd bring musicians home
yeah,
and and then play bebop and jazz, but stuff he liked to do, and that was my house. That was my upbringing, just
sure.
having musicians coming in and out and playing and having instruments around. And it's obviously it served me well in my life. So that was part of me growing up
You're
crazy
bringing,
about the world.
sure. You mentioned in the book that your sister also could have been a great
Yeah.
musician, artist, or singer as well, right? She
I,
didn't have the opportunity to do it. She got married and
yeah.
did other, raise a family. But
Yeah, she had a fantastic voice. I mean, her idol was Ella Fitzgerald, and she sang like Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, she had a superb voice, and in fact, um, she I remember that I don't think it's even in the book that I remember when I was a little kid, like 4 or 5 years old, and she was 10 years, 12 years older than me, and she said, "Come on, Derek, sing along with me." And she'd sit down and sing "Down by the Riverside," and I'd harmonize, and it was a natural harmony. I knew how to harmonize, I knew how to sing, and she gave me my first guitar, my Spanish guitar. So my sister was very important in my life, being number one, knowing I could sing, and number two, giving me a guitar to start my first group in school.
for you, good for you. Feel free to elaborate on talk about if you want the years of Simon Dupree, but eventually the transition into Gentle Giant. If you have another transition, if Gentle Giant have not existed, you guys would have you guys were doing very well financially. You were moving up. You're playing in a lot of venues. You recorded in Abbey Road and many other famous recordings. So you could have you did very well. But what was the motivation of you reach a plateau and then you thought, well, we want to do something different? What was the motivation of doing something different that eventually became into Gentle Giant? You didn't know when you say in the book something different. You were not thinking about, I don't know if the word prog rock was mentioned at the time, but you wanted to do you were not interested in doing just pop. You want to do something different, right?
Exactly. Well, again, we had a couple of hit records. One really very big record, and we started playing venues in Europe, more in England. That it paid good money, but it was
Yeah.
almost like, and then but the audience was waiting for the hits and other songs that we tried to do. We were getting better personally and musically, but when we weren't playing the hits, it was like, okay, they were eating the scampi and chips or whatever it was, and we were getting more frustrated about being able to move on because we were looking at and listening to different kinds of music. and saying, we'd like to do something different than another pop single, another hit single, this, that, and the other. And eventually, basically we said, we've got to stop doing this and let's move on to something else, to write and be a different kind of band. We didn't know what kind of band it was going to be, but something different, because everything was changing in the late 60s, early 70s. Bands like the League of Gentlemen became King Crimson. Bands like the Idol Race became ELO. There's all these bands that were in pop bands that were changing. We were the same thing. We were getting better musically, but we couldn't stay in the pop world. So we said, we can't do this anymore. And thankfully, we had a manager that said, okay, I believe in the Shulman brothers. So you know what? Stop the group and I'll pay for you guys to stop the group and get new musicians and do what you want to do. So thankfully, this guy, Jerry Braun, our manager, believed in us as musicians to start what became Gentle Giant. We were very lucky. Yeah.
Good for you. Was it difficult to convince your brother to go along as well, or?
Oh no, all three, both my brothers, we were all in the same. That's absolutely, we got to stop this, even though we're making good money, and let's start something brand new. We didn't know what it was going to be. It's like opening a blank page and let's start writing.
Exactly. Good for you. Yeah, good for you. I'm happy you first. Very happy you wrote this wonderful book, man. Easy to read, and it has a lot of great stories, man. So
thanks.
Don't take my word for it. Just get the book, man. It's very expensive, like $20, and you can read a couple, 2 or 3 afternoons, and so you mentioned in the book that Frank Zappa was very influential in your life, and when you start hearing, listen to music, you end up meeting him, and eventually you were sharing the stage with him. So, my God, it's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, Zappa, actually, that was one of our influences in my first. We heard, groups like Frank Zappa, and believe it or not, we were turned on to a band called Spirit, in a US band called Spirit, by our keyboard player at the time, who was Reg Dwight, who became Elton John. Elton, and he said, you should listen to a couple of bands. There's this band called Spirit. Well, I said, okay, we'll check that out. And they were kind of a prog psychedelic group that didn't do well in America, but they were fantastic. And so we heard these new groups that we were turned on to, and we said, we've got to do this. And Elton was, he said, you guys, you and Derek and Ray, you and Ray and Phil, you guys are really great. I mean, you should do something different. And a year or two, he was in the group, and a year and a half afterwards, I told his name was Reg at the time. I called him. We're gonna break the band up and we're gonna do something different. Would you like to be, think about being part of it? I think you know the story. And
of course, yeah.
We went to Watford with my brother, my Ray, and myself went to where he was living, and he said, I really would, and I'd really like to be a part of something brand new. And he played things like Skyline Pigeon and a couple of other songs. And it wasn't, to be honest with you, it wasn't what we wanted to do. So we went back home, and he said, and by the way, I'm going to change my name to Elton John. We said, okay. And we didn't say it to him, but when we got on the train back to Portsmouth, we said, that won't work. Of course, a year later, he was Elton John. And we were Gentle Giant looking for a gig. So
that's right. And the guy, look at what he has done. Unbelievable. I mean, there are some people that I don't know. Some people are born to be great. I don't know.
And also we stayed in touch over the years. That's a great thing. Yeah. And despite he's an icon, but we still stayed in touch. And in fact, I saw him a couple of years ago in New York, and it was like it was yesterday, and it was fantastic. And I actually gave him a cassette that he wrote. He wrote a couple of songs for my first group, and he forgot he wrote them, and he didn't have it in his repertoire. I said, Reg, oops. I said, no, Elton, I'm sorry. I do remember this, and he was really happy that I gave him the song that he forgot he wrote for us.
Yeah.
So
Unbelievable, man. The guy is he's a hero. Mike. I think he retired. I think last year. The music business and then find happiness in his life and
yeah,
have done very well. Good for him, man.
absolutely.
And his partner as well.
Yeah.
Good for them. The importance of Visconti, who did the foreword of the book as well. That was an important person. Well, he's very well known in the industry, but he was a very good man and believe in you guys, give you a chance, and raise the bar more than that. I know you wanna. The book you say, I know you guys want to go there, but you need to go here and then here. And somebody in life, you need like good people. You need mentors. It's important as well. Who's somebody who is willing to give you a chance in the studio or record an album or be a session musician for free when you're starting up, whatever.
Yeah.
But some people, he opened a lot of doors for you and help you to in his own way to help with what you become. Of course, he couldn't make great music. You guys did it, all the brothers and the other guys in the band need to do it, but he helped you out a lot to accomplish your dreams, your goals, if you will, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, he did. He was a fantastic mentor and became, almost a member of the band because he saw in us
Yeah.
that we were pretty good musicians and
Mm.
yeah, he loved that. He enjoyed being with us because Kerry, our keyboard player, had a degree in composition and percussion, and my brother Ray, we all could read music, but also so did Tony, and he mentored us on that first album to be a real band and to make a record, an album at Trident Studios.
Right.
Yeah, Trident. Yeah. At the same time, he was working with the Bowie and T-Rex. So it was a fantastic time to be in that situation. But Tony was a mentor, and the first couple of albums, he really was a mentor and taught us about studio, about how to be a band and making our music more cohesive. So absolutely, he was. And in fact, I'm doing a book signing and a little appearance next month, and Tony's coming along with me, and we're going to be on it together in Rough Trade in New York. We're going to
In
be
New York. Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, good for you. Good for you. By the way, Trident Studio doesn't exist anymore. You know that
Oh,
they
no.
end up building. I was in London last month.
Yeah.
They end up building house. I mean, like a townhouse, but still the plaque is there, and that was a legendary place to be there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
First time we went in there, we bumped into George Harrison. And next to us, we were, it was that period of time in England, a superb, an unbelievable creative period. Everyone was doing everything. Queen was in the next studio at Trident. Roy Thomas Baker was our T-boy on the first album. So it was crazy.
Yeah, at the time, did you say all the people get into a studio they were what they call it T-boys, right? And then tape up and then little by little began learning until they became engineers. That was the way to do it. You learn all the skills on the job, so to speak. Your band, this is my opinion. I don't care what everybody think or does, but your bands unfortunately end up the life. We can talk about what you guys call it quit, but it's at the same level, in my opinion, that jazz or Genesis. I mean, you guys, they were very influential in the music business, right? Somebody may agree or disagree with me, and it's up to debate, but I don't care. That's my Claudia's opinion, right? You guys did very well, and the music and how you went for this album to another album. I'm going to be showing you a couple albums later on, and you guys did very well. And Gently Giant had been a band that was and is very influential in music. Unfortunately, you don't get the money or get rewarded or the recognition of the jazz or Genesis of this world, right? But you guys,
Yeah, we We did it because we loved doing it. I mean, we loved
Yeah,
to, we loved making music. We loved going on stage and having fun. We loved pushing ourselves musically. That's something that we were probably a little selfish in some ways because we pushed ourselves more and to be better musically. And then we take it on stage. But we also had fun. We didn't take ourselves too seriously.
yeah,
That's that was important to us. We take our music seriously, but we didn't take ourselves too seriously. And when we went on stage, we loved to have fun playing really good music. We wanted to have the audience smile when they saw us, as opposed to thinking they're going to a philharmonic or symphony. Smile and have fun with us. So that's
yeah.
something important for. But we didn't know whether we'd be talking about the band 45 years later. I'm here,
That's
I
right.
am, an old man talking about, the group that is being sampled by all these, hip hop bands and other,
So yeah,
but we didn't know. We just did it for that period of time, and we just loved what we did and worked really hard at it.
yeah, gotcha. At the time, there was a great venue. Of course, I was too young. I didn't have any money, so I visited what is called, what it was the Marquee Club, right? It still exists, but they are office and
Yeah.
that place was unbelievable. Everybody, the best of the best were playing there every night, night after night, man.
Oh, the Marquee, yeah.
Yeah, the Marquee.
We only did a couple of 2 or 3 shows there,
Yeah,
but because we weren't a London band, we were on the south coast of England. We
that's
were,
true.
we weren't a part of a scene, if you like. So, but that's what we were, but we did very well in Europe. It's funny because you talk about South America, but we also the first country we became really popular and played the stadiums were like Southern Europe, Italy in particular. We
Yeah,
were big in Italy before anywhere else, and then Germany, Italy. We played clubs in England. We played stadiums in Rome and
yeah,
Torino.
yeah,
It was funny because there's something about about the Latin appreciation of culture.
yeah.
Something about it. I don't know what it is, but I think they have it. I have a good feeling about culture more than, to a certain degree, more than some Northern Europeans.
Yeah, I got you. No, I understand the importance of when you guys went to the first band to that would become Gentle Giant. You mentioned that your brother was a professor, and they thought, well, we need to write great music, but also our lyrics need to be something different, right?
Yeah.
And you draw in Camus and philosophy and psychology. You mentioned if you look at if you don't listen to the music and you just read the lyrics, right? You know the meaning behind a lot of things, and it's up to the interpretation of the listener. But poem and poetry and historic event and so forth that it was different, right? It wasn't love. Lady, I want to go out with you and have a baby or whatever. Your stuff was very different. So
Yeah, well, the lyrics will be. He was very influenced by literature, of course, and he was.
yeah,
We both were, and so yeah, we got ideas from, as you said, Camus or the Rabelaisian
that's
Gargantua
right. Yeah,
and talking about Pantagruel and people don't. But yeah, we didn't. I actually thought I spoke to someone recently, and I didn't know. I wasn't sure, but I don't think we used the word love on any lyric. But there was one apparently. So somebody told me off. Oh yes, there was one song that we used the word love. It was about different kinds of things that
sure.
but it wasn't Moon and June and she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, feel free to mention also in the book, but the three of you, you were you became very close to an end because you have an accident, and then feel free to elaborate on that accident, and then you save your life because they gotta be God up there because save the three of you, and then you end up, oh, we have a rehearsal. We need to go to a studio. How we get to London in the next 3 hours? Never mind the car. Never mind that you almost died that day, or with your brother. But
Well, that's still very. I mean, even today, it's still very much in my mind. Yeah, it was. We were recording Three Friends,
yeah,
the Three Friends, and my brother Ray. It was four of us. We were driving up from Portsmouth to London, and Ray was driving, and it was raining. It was pouring rain, but we had this big car. We had a car called a Zephyr Zodiac, and it was like a tank. Thankfully, and it was pouring rain, and Ray was driving, and the car started slipping. It was a big flood, and it started slipping one way. Usually, what you should do is turn into the slide. He
right.
did, and he turned into the other way, and the car started going the other way, and it went over the middle section of the freeway, turned over 2 times, and went down a cliff, an embankment, and landed on a pathway the size of a car. All I remember is, well, as I said, all I remember is the bang from the middle section, and I just went like this, and I remember the bang, and for about 3 or 4 seconds, I thought I was dead. I mean, I really thought that was it. But I felt calm. It was the weirdest experience. What happened was, we turned over, went to the other, turned over 2, 3 times, landed on this pathway, and below the pathway was a cliff all the way down to the railway tracks, and the wheels were gone, and the car and the car windows were smashed. But I looked around, and for 3 or 4 seconds, and I looked around, and I thought, I don't know if I'm dead or not. But I said, "Are you okay?" And Kerry was next to me here. And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And Phil was in the passenger seat. "Yeah, I'm okay. You got a little scratch here." And Ray was okay. So we escaped death, unbelievably death. And we said, "Well, look, so here we are. Let's get out of the car." And we had a session in an hour and a half. Let's get to the train station, which is that's where we landed, right by the railway tracks. We climbed down the cliff, went to the railway station, got in the train, and got to Advision Studios, where Malcolm Mortimore was waiting, and got on with a session for Three Friends.
My God.
And yeah, but I remember really distinctly about when the car was starting to turn and it hit the middle embankment. I just went like this, and I didn't panic. The weirdest thing is I didn't feel any panic. I felt calm because I knew I was going to die. But I didn't, obviously. So it was the experience was, but we made it in time for the session to start.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. Are you religious in general, or no?
No, not really. No, I'm no.
Yeah.
No, not religious. No. But you know
Yeah.
what? It's who knows? Who knows what? I don't know. I don't know anything. Actually, I tell you.
But if you survive that day, man, your dad, your mom were looking at you.
Somewhere, whoever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the car was gone. I mean, thankfully, the
Sure.
body of the car was like a tank. As I said, if it had been another car, we'd have been
We wouldn't be here talking. Yeah, of course.
exactly
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad. Feel free to, in the book, you mentioned about Karen Carpenter. Feel free to elaborate on the story, but because she was very famous, but I don't know who. No, it didn't happen to you. It happened to
Oh, Kerry.
yeah.
Yeah, it was that was a funny story. Well, we were at a show. I can't remember what show it was, but our manager at that time, a guy called Terry Ellis, was kind of dating Karen Carpenter, kind of, and Kerry was sitting by the piano, and Kerry. He's a fantastic, I mean, brilliant musician, a brilliant composer, but really doesn't really participate in, it doesn't really get into music and who's what and whatever it is. So we were at the other side of the stage, and we saw Kerry talking to Karen Carpenter. And I heard we were overhearing this conversation. So Kerry was, saying, she was asking Kerry, so what do you do? You play keyboards, and Kerry was explaining about what keyboard he was playing and this, that, and the other. And Kerry was, talking to her. So he said, so do you know anything about the music business? And Karen Carpenter, yeah, I know a little bit. And he said, we were listening to this. And he said, are you in some kind of group? Or are you singing? And she said, yeah, I'm in a group called the Carpenters. And Kerry didn't know who it was. And I said, oh, cool. I mean, do you record? And of course the Carpenters were gigantic. And Kerry was so naive, didn't know who the Carpenters were. But she was cool. She was really cool. And yeah, I think they may have gone on a date. I don't know after that, but he didn't know, this. And we were saying, it's Kerry Carpenter. This, wow. And Kerry said, oh, are you in the group? You sing? So it was just a funny experience to see Kerry's naivete. Yeah, but she was great. She was very cool about it. She was great.
Unbelievable, man. It's a hero of mine, unbelievable person. Plus, the Carpenter were the two of the brothers, they were very humble people, very quiet and keep it to themselves. They never talk about like rock band that they talk a lot. And no, actually, they were very humble, quiet, and they did very well for themselves.
Yeah, well, she was very sweet. I mean, when Kerry said that you were in a group, yeah, I'm in a group. I sing. She didn't say who. Then a group of the Carpenters, and Kerry didn't know who that was.
Unbelievable. Well, I will be showing you a couple of records, and the reason I'm doing that, I want to mention if there was any pressure from the record company for live record at all, it was because I have listened to all your stuff. I have all your albums, and I have seen videos and so forth. In my humble opinion, is it fair to say that you sounded better playing live than in the studio? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you're exactly right. I think, I think the studio was a place where we recorded the music that we rehearsed.
Yeah.
But as a live band, I think we were much more free, a little more freer, and able to incorporate different things that we wouldn't have in the recording situation. And we also enjoyed presenting our music. I think the time we had in my first group, Simon Dupree, gave us a good apprenticeship, if you like, in stagecraft. So presenting ourselves as a group, as opposed to standing there and playing and looking at my shoes. No, we were not about that. We like to present and entertain as well as have fun. But we also stretched the pieces of music and made things a little different, so that, and also we love to surprise the audience. We love to have fun, shocking the audience. I mean, Ray's violin solo, which is in the remix of the live.
That's right.
We had a quadraphonic sound. I mean, it was built by our engineer at Advision, and he used to play his solo, and there's music coming out of there, and people saying, "Where's that coming from?" We love that. We loved surprising the audience with lots of different kinds of things. So that was it was much more fun to do it on a live basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I told you before we began the interview that I have a lot of music, and hundreds of thousands of vinyl, and this is one in my top 15, top 20. I don't know how to say it. That was great. That still have it. 1977. This is a masterpiece, my friend.
Thank you. Well, the remix is
of course, my friend. But of course, this guy and that guy. That's a very good album interview, and that one, and of course, that one as well. So forth. The other upstairs, but
thank you.
And so forth. But unfortunately, in 1980, the band called it a day. I think you have mentioned, feel free to elaborate on the book. The last album you went to, you were in Los Angeles at the time living with your wife and the baby.
Yeah.
And then feel free to mention what happened and then why you guys decided, no, this is the end of the road, guys.
Well, yeah, we decided to go to LA together to record Civilian. It was not particularly comfortable for several of the band because it was a different kind of atmosphere. But times had changed and we were still looking for, I mean, there are bands that we were bagged with, you mentioned Crimson and Yes and Tull. They were able to for some reason get a hit song, a hit record, and radio was changing at that time. So they weren't playing albums, they weren't playing pieces they were now playing singles from an album. And bands like Genesis were able to make a hit song, a hit single. So we went to LA to make us an album which retains the Gentle Giant, but to try and pare it down. And make something which possibly could be on the radio. I mean, I'm being honest here, but also not to be a pop band or anything like that, but just pare some of the experimental stuff down a little. And I think actually it worked very well. Actually, I love Civilian. I think it's a really good album. However, we put it out and it flopped. Radio didn't touch it for lots of reasons, and because of that, and we had an American tour booked right after that. And there was a time when you say, okay, look, we could continue, and we can play the little dwindling audiences, we can still do records, and we can still do this, but then you become a parody of yourself. Then you start doing the old stuff again. And you get older, and the fans don't want to hear the new stuff. And then you start trying to do new stuff, and they won't listen to it. So he said, after this tour, we're going to stop. We've done 10 years. We recorded 13 albums in 10 years. We toured everywhere, 200 gigs a year. We never had a day off in our lives. We really gave it our best shot for those 10 years. You know what? We did what we did. We made a good living. We weren't rich, but we made a good living. And it was time to say, okay, let's stop while we're ahead and still while we're in good shape, and let's think of something else. That chapter had to be closed. And we moved on to different things. So Ray, my brother, as you see, became a producer. I joined the dark side. I became Darth Vader and joined
the dark side. Very well, what to put it. Yeah.
But it was time. There were creative juices were running low, and we didn't want to force something which was fun to do, just to do a job. When music becomes a job, that's when you have to stop. It's got to be something that's inside you, and it started becoming like a job. In fact, the last tour was a joy because we knew that it wasn't a job anymore. We had to do it. We had so much fun on that last tour because it wasn't just a job to get us money. We knew that was it. So we had a fantastic time on that last tour.
I got you. And you guys never reunited, right? And then you got many offers. The 2000 as well hey, you want to do 5 gigs here? And you say, no, we don't need the money. We are done. We are really done.
Yeah. Well, we could have used the money, but you know what? Money was not the
motivation, right?
Not for Gentle Giant. It was about music. Listen, to make a living, to being a musician, that meant everything to us.
I got you. Good for you. And we mentioned before we began recording that, I'm from Chile, from South America, and you never play in South America, but you don't know how popular your band is there, or perhaps but it's unbelievable. The prog rock band, and are very popular there, and they do because also like in the 80s and 90s, no many bands were going to Latin America, right? That was before cell phone, before YouTube. So somebody wanted to listen to music, buy the record, buy the vinyl, before CDs, or listen to the radio, right? So people were buying vinyl, like, who are this band? Where they play? No, you have a video, yeah, people will copy cassette or a bootleg copy, but no video, right?
Yeah.
Like YouTube didn't exist, right? Or any cell phone didn't exist. So you guys were very, very popular in South America. You unfortunately, never had the opportunity to play there, right?
Oh, no, we never did, and I wished we had, because as
Yeah.
I told you, as I saw you, as you saw before, on Spotify, at least we're probably 5 of the top 10 cities in South America. Our top cities are streaming. In fact, Santiago, Chile, is the #1.
Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Good. I'm very happy you say that. I'll say, so you went to the dark side, you say, eventually when you end up finishing the life as a musician. But as a record executive, you advocated for the artist to get a fair share of the money that they deserve. And you saw that, the dark side is the correct way to do it, because perhaps you guys didn't, they were, if somebody, a record label, have pushed and help you and promote you to the way that perhaps Jess or Jethro Tull or Genesis were promoted, you have been at the same level. Unfortunately, in the record business, they have the favorite and money exchange and this and that, and it's the dark side of the business. And you saw that, face to face when you got the job there, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I joined Polygram, and the first day there, I realized, I went office to office, and every office I had a person in there, and they all had their priorities, all had their favorites, and I could tell that, it wasn't about the music. Well, it was certainly about music, but it was all about priorities in the company. And had I known then, when I was in the band, that you had to be the priority at the label, as opposed to a band just putting it out there and having a bit of marketing, then I think possibly we would have had the push that perhaps other bands had it. But you know what? You can't go back and say I wish. You don't regret it. In fact, in some respects, I'm glad that things were as they were, because perhaps we would have been a different kind of band. But nevertheless, I saw that it was about the record company pushing a certain band, and we weren't the priority. So I learned that on the very first day. So I had to realize that whenever I got involved with a band, I would champion if I thought they were worth it, and also an authentic leader in their field. I would champion it and make sure that the company prioritized it and the band got its fair shake.
Yeah, gotcha. And sometimes it's a thin line between who gets signed for a record label and they offer them a deal or not. There's a lot of, in my humble opinion, it's a lot of great bands that, because I listen to a lot of stuff, that didn't have the opportunity, and they were great, but nobody give them a chance, or they were no favorite, or a record label wouldn't put them money, never got a record deal, but they were great bands, great musicians. Many didn't make it for one reason or another, right? So
there's this, there were several bands that actually made it, but I just posted something today about Dream Theater, for instance. Dream Theater. Mike Cornwell came to me when I was running ATCO at the time. I was president, and they had one album out and they were dropped, and he came to me with a 4-track demo of just music, no lyrics, no vocals, but the music was spectacular. I mean, it was fantastic. And I said to him, like, you know what? I think what you have musically is great. You know, I'm going to give you do a not a demo deal, kind of financing deal for 6 months. You can pay your way. I'm going to pay your studio, pay your salaries, put your band together. Let me hear what you've got when you got a singer. You know, they went out to got James Dupree as a singer, and about 3 or 4 weeks later, Mike came back with those 4 songs that I heard, the instrumental songs, as well as a few others, and it was brilliant. So I said, okay, I'm going to sign this band to a real deal. And they went in the studio and recorded Images and Words, and they recorded Pull Me Under. We edited that song and we put it, and I championed that song to make sure it was a big hit. And that started the band to become, you know,
what they are right now. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So
good.
I believe in it. So I gave them an opportunity and gave them money to do that very same thing.
Yeah, got you. And of course, you were involved with Bon Jovi and AC/DC, Bad Company, and so on and so forth, man. No bad, huh?
Not
No
bad.
bad for a poor kid.
Exactly.
Good for you, man. Any band that you could mention, you know, if you have any recollection of that you tried to help them, but for a reason beyond your control didn't work out, that you saw they were good on paper and went to the studio, but other forces didn't make it align the stars and they never succeeded the way that the other bands succeeded?
Yeah, a couple. But it's been interesting doing this, you know, these kind of yeah. When I was at Polygram, you
Yeah.
know, I signed Cinderella and Kingdom Come, Men Without Hats. But there was a band that I signed that should have been as big as Bon Jovi, and it was a band called Dan Reed Network.
Yeah, I don't know. I never heard of them. Yeah.
Well, okay, you go listen to this first album and the second album. They
Yeah.
were spectacular. They were multiracial, multicultural. You know, Dan was from Guatemala. He was they had you know a black bass player as guitarist. They were rock and roll and funk, but they were superb, brilliant, a brilliant live band. They were just unbelievable. And I took them into the studio with my favorite producers, with Bruce Fairbairn, Bob Rock, and that first album was absolutely spectacular. It should have been the biggest hit, but I was at Polygram at the time, and their priority was trying to get Def Leppard's second album a hit, and they were spending millions and millions of dollars. And I was pushing so hard to get them the slot of priority, and it just would not fit into where they should have been. In Europe, it actually did very, very well. But over in here in the US, because it was funk, because it was probably a racist thing, I don't know. There's something, you know, because he appeared to be a darker color. They had a black bass player and a black guitarist. Maybe radio, you know, didn't want that. It was a similar kind of thing as Prince. But they should have been as big as some of the biggest artists I've ever signed. So that's one. The other one, when I was at ATCO, was a band called Enough's Enough. They were well known, and their first record was actually went platinum. However, they were a different kind of band because they had everything going for them, but they self-destructed because of the things that we talked about earlier about drugs, you know, and their chemical romance. And that was a sad situation because they had everything going for them, and they had this word it. They had it. They had it. So
Yeah. Wow.
you know, something special in a band. They had it, but they lost it because of their drugs.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Do you look back in your life sometime and you wake up and say, man, I played with that band, I've been a promoter and executive producer, I play in the best venues in the world with the best people, you know, many. You pinch yourself, man, I must be dreaming. I came from a poor family and, you know, I didn't have, you know, enough money or lunch money at the time or whatever, but now look at what you have done, man. It had nothing to do with money. So it had to do with you make it, that you did very well for yourself and you have a comfortable life and you accomplish your goals. I mean, if you become good in what you do, the money will come, right? No question about it, right? But you accomplish your goal. It would have been very easy for you to, if you have not been born in a family, to give up, hey, get a job, never go to school, and you have stay all your life there, you know.
Yeah,
In,
no,
in England.
I consider myself very lucky. Honestly, very lucky that I had support from my family, which is
Yeah,
important. You mentioned education, and my mom, my mother, no matter what, even if we had gigs and we come back from a gig at 5 in the morning, you go to school, you damn well go to school, doesn't matter, and we had that ethos, if you like, and hard work. We were hard workers, and I pinch myself. I feel very fortunate and very lucky that I've had the life I've had. I have a great family. I have kids and no grandkids yet, but grand dogs.
yeah,
um, but yeah, I'm very, very lucky that I've lived my life full of music. That's the key. That's the key thing. Full of music and full of um, art and culture and I didn't have to sit at a desk and think I can't wait for this job to finish. I wanted it to be Monday morning every morning. I was when you're in music you want it to be every day is like a weekend.
right. Yeah, I know what you mean. We live in a hypothetical question. We live in crazy time and this country against that country. We, as society, we're killing one another. And what do you think the role of music in the world of society, if you will? Can music, I don't know, save the world, so to speak, or
Uh, I wish it could, honestly. I was watching a couple of documentaries. I watched the Live Aid documentary recently.
yeah.
Um, and I actually watched another documentary, which is fantastic, the Devo documentary.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Fantastic, documentary. And I saw what their ethos was and their way of thinking. But um, I don't know. I'm just disillusioned, honestly, by what's happened to the world, especially. Look, I'm an immigrant too. I'm from Glasgow, Scotland. I'm an immigrant to America myself.
Yeah,
And I came over here, and I made a good life, but I feel sad for what's happening in the last 20, 30 years for the kids and the younger people who are I don't know, who are looking for something which is attainable. But I think they're taught now with the internet, which obviously is everywhere, that everything's easy, but it isn't. You have to work.
that's right. Yeah,
You have to, and you have to be motivated. Be motivated to be great. Not just nothing will come to you. You've got to go to it. So I don't know. It's just very, very difficult for the younger generation. And obviously the politics in this country and all over the world are disappointing, to say the least. That's all I can say. I just hope that, with when I'm gone and my kids and my grandkids take over, that things will change because I went through an amazing time when it was in the late 60s, early 70s, when everything was so optimistic and positive, and you could do what you want and be creative and be who you want. And I became a musician.
good for
And
you. Good for you.
that was it. So I
Yeah.
hope it returns.
Yeah, good for you. And the last two questions. You mentioned that, of course, playing the complete live experience was released recently. I have it upstairs because I was listening to a CD, a Blu-ray, also an Atmos mix and visual. Um, I'm happy that you did that, man, because that's if it was a masterpiece on vinyl, it became even better in a CD or in a Blu-ray format with visual and Atmos, and it sounds unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very happy, man. I'm very happy.
Me too.
Derek, was very nice talking to you. I know you have a lot of interviews online, and we talk about your music. This is a great book, easy read, $20 or so the book, 300 pages, great photography as well inside. And man, once you start drinking, when you start is to get a cup of coffee, you will read half the book, and then another cup of coffee, and you read the other half because it's very entertainment. It's very well written. So it was very nice talking to you, Derek. I will see you at the Prague talk. And as I say before, if you happen to be in this area, you're more than welcome to with your wife to come and have dinner here in our humble place, and then if not, we'll see you in the Prague talk, man.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. Thanks a
No
lot.
problem.
Nice
No
to
problem. Have a good afternoon. Thank you very much again, Derek.
Yeah, bye-bye.